and welcome to our program this evening that features the brilliant David Foster and his amazing sidekick, Mary Ellen Shepherd-Logan. Amazing. Yes, they will present the program for us this evening. A couple of things first. We've passed around a coupon for a free pizza and a drink for all the sunrise services. That's compliments of David. So make sure you get one of those for yourself and maybe one for a friend that you would like to take with you. All right?
Correct.
Okay.
If you don't have a friend, take one.
And the other thing that is coming around is a flyer for our next program. Come on in, Sandy. Good to see you. There's chairs up here. And actually, there's one right here. There's one right here. It was. Thank you very much. Voice. The other thing that's coming around is a flyer for our next meeting, our next program. And our next programs are all listed on the yellow sheet up here. Our next program, well, actually, the next special event is Log Cabin Day, which is June 30th. You can read about that in today's Blue Water Voice. Beautiful article on that. Lots of activities going on here for Log Cabin Day. On August 1st, our next program will be about women's underwear. Women's underwear in the 1800s. So the flyers that are coming around tell you all about that. I would like to make a special note that the meeting, that program on women's underwear will be at the Richmond Community Theater, which is over on Churchill and Parker Streets.
Old church.
Right, it's the old Congregational Church, and that's where the meeting will be. So anyway, look for more information on that. I'm really glad to see Warren Schwark here. He's working on our outhouse, and he says things are coming along great. Yeah, right? Someone else wanted to make an announcement. I'm forgetting who that was. Somebody wanted to tell us about... Is there anybody else that wants to say anything before the program begins?
Well, in regards to some of these items.
Yes, okay. Paul McConnell. Take it away, it's yours. Yes,
Hey.
That's right.
There is a car museum, a new car museum at 26 Mile in Gratiot. And I recommend anybody that's interested in old vehicles or anything to do with old musical instruments to go there. They're open on Tuesdays between 1 and 4 p.m. No charge, just go in. They've got cars in there from 1896 through 1957, 1960. Everything restored 100%. He's got a Tucker in there he's got 900,000 in it.
Where's the building at?
Where is this?
Yeah, I can't.
26, go to Gratiot, head south on Gratiot, turn right on 26 Mile, the first street, turn left, it's the second building. It's in a industrial complex. It's called Ted Stalls, and it's free and it's very, very, very interesting. And I've got some brochure here that I'll leave for anybody that wants it. And
Is it only open on Tuesdays? The only
yes,
day?
only on Tuesdays. But if for tours in regards to our organization, yes, they would welcome setting up a tour of the Richmond Historical Society.
hysterical. That's all right. This describes us.
Here's some more. And there's some little ads, whatever.
Well, thank you, Paul. Yeah, and I think that sounds like a great idea. One of the things that I would like to mention to you, yes, the flyers I'm sending around about the women's underwear, mentioning the unmentionables that will be at the Community Theater August 1st. There is a charge for that program. The speaker is charging us, and so we need to pass that along to you. So the charge is $10 per person. We are not selling any advance tickets, but that's at the community theater. I just want to let you know that there is a charge for that. This meeting tonight, there is no charge. However,
You didn't tell me, Christine.
go ahead, Mary. Go ahead, Vanna, take it away. donations, and I don't need to remind all of you, but I will, that the whole village here is maintained through volunteer donations and volunteer hours. So we really count on our donation jars. So I will put it in the back of the room, on the back of the room now, so maybe on your way out you could, depending on, you know, your assessment here, I'll do the program thing. I'm sure I'll be donate generously. So, okay, with all of this, does anybody have any other announcements?
Do you want me to say something about this?
In your newsletter?
No, here. Did you want? I thought you said you wanted.
Oh, I'm not sure I understand what you want.
That's the,
Can you, that's the unmentioning, the unmentionals? Do you, oh, yes, thank you. Mickey has already been to a program presented by Kim Farr on women's underwear, and she's going to give you a little rundown of what it's like.
She is delightful. She starts out with just a shift on. Well, actually, she starts out with clothing on, and then gets down to a shift, and then starts showing you piece by piece, and you will be amazed at how much there is to learn about unmentionables. She's just delightful. She's the director of the Crocker House in Mount Clemens, where Jerry and I have volunteered for something like 10 years. And I've seen her do this program a couple of times. She did it at Lorenzo Cultural Center. There must have been 500 people there. And there were a couple of fellas in the front row. And as she was going on, they were slinking in their seats. And one of them said, TMI, too much information. I guarantee you will love this, and it's worth $10.
I suspect that she started out dressed up and took it all down.
Peeled
Be
down.
interested to us guys.
Yes, she dresses all the way back up again.
Thank you very much, Mickey. That was nice. And now, here we have the brilliant David Foster and his amazing sidekick, very own Jim.
cool. Couple guarantees. I'm not going to strip down and show. And I want to thank Christine for putting my program between the outdoor kirby and the underwear. Where did that put me?
Well, Dave, that makes you an expert on gas.
Anyway, what we're going to talk about tonight are the older gas pumps. Basically 4 generations. We're going to talk about the pre-visible, the visible, the clock face, and the motor. And then we get up to kind of current day pumps, and they're actually dispensers where the pumps are in the tank. But these, you know, before electricity, so they're gravity. They go from gravity to electricity. And I'm just going to try to show you how, what makes them up, of how they were put together, kind of why. Obviously any questions, but things are pretty simple. So first of all, I'd like to start with when they started coming out with gasoline, that they had to find a place to get this gasoline to the vehicles, the tin limousines, right? So the majority of them were put on curbs. And Richmond had something like, I wish Dougie Penzine was here, but I think Richmond had something like 20 to some pumps that were along the curb. And I can tell you that in front of Kim's Country Kitchen, that there was a tank, and it was right up against the foundation. And they're only like 250 gallons. They're small tanks. If you can imagine back then, somebody pull up and fill their tank up with 4 gallons of gas. You didn't need a whole lot of gas in that tank, right? So what I like to do is just show you, first of all, how they operated. This is the curb. The tank was buried. The dispenser or the pump was put right on the curb. The pump would pull right up. They would have a tenant to drop that into your tank. Here's the tank. You can see the fill pipe that would go up and get pumped out of the tank to the pump. There is a fill pipe over here. There should be a vent pipe. Here's a vent pipe going up on the edge here. The tank has to have ventilation so that they can dispense the tank. So that's basically the way the fuel points started. Okay, I mean they had to get it to the consumer, and they were put on the curb. So we'll go to the.
Who they belong to, Dave?
Pardon?
Who did they belong to?
They would be probably the different store owners. We should have two. There you go. You know, if somebody said, well, we've been doing this, but let's get on the bandwagon, so let's sell some gas also. No different than now. I mean, you know, first gas stations, and then the convenience stores, and then the Lowe's or Super K's or the, you know, everybody started to sell it because they wanted to get into it. A lot of them didn't know they were getting into problems with pollution.
Is there regulations back then?
No, I think they just didn't want you to spill a lot. I don't think there were regulations. They were starting, after it was going for a while, then they got into weights and measures to regulate the amount, and we'll kind of get in that. But the first was when they got into the tall visibles, the short person probably got more gas than the tall person because they couldn't see where it stopped or started. So if they came down below the marker, you know, so that was it. But so what they start out with is the delivery trucks. This particular truck has 4 tanks on it, has a compartment in the back. It's got tools in the side. On the other side would be transfer cans that they would take to that tank that we saw earlier. So Ray, let's go to the back of the tank. Well, actually, I'm going to give you one other thing. On that tank, when that truck would pull up to the curb, he would pull out this safety flare to alert the 3 cars that were going to go by him. Okay? This is very typical. That would be on the truck. They'd put it on the curb, but that was the safety flare. And this is original. I think it's like 1909 or something on here. But it would be part of the package with the truck, and it would be for safety, so they wouldn't run into it. But pretty simple, right? They have a lot of lights on the truck.
Is that reflective?
Yes, it is. Yep. And really nice because it does it from both sides. Then they had this is the thing I've got. This is the anti-theft for the truck. It opens up like that, goes around the tire and the wheel. You lock it, and that's your anti-theft. Now, what it does is you can identify the person that's stealing the truck because he's thumping down the road. All that he's going to do is go over and hit the ground, thump, and then go around. But that's an anti-theft.
And it's got a key to it also?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep. So, but that was with the truck. Okay. All right. Back of the truck. Then what you had is obviously the funnel that you would go up to the tank by the building. But this was the measuring can that they would use. And this was made for 5 gallons. It's states here it's a 5-gallon measure. From the back of the truck, they would pour the fuel into this can right here. And that's all it was for, just for a measuring can. So then, that same individual would take this can, which would be maybe a white top for a premium or for unleaded. He would then, or she, would pour the fuel from here, after it was taken out of the back of the truck, into this can, take it to the tank with the funnel, and pour it in, and give them 5 gallons. Now, on the back of the truck, you can see right here, this is the recorder, and this is it right here. This is the process that they used to record the amount that they were delivered. So let's say you ordered 10 gallons. He would take one of these, switch it over to 5, pretty tough, right? Do the second one and take it to 10. And depending on how many gallons that he took, at the end of that particular drop, then he would read this, record it in his book, push the button, and it would go back to 0 with his thumb. But that's how they recorded it. I mean, pretty simple, right? Truck, the can, why would you take it from here to there? I would have taken it from here and dumped it. I heard stories about this guy here that would hook it on the truck and try to figure out if he could go over there and dump it. If they were going to get 10, then he would just crack it part way and hopefully he'd get back before it filled up. So, and if he didn't, it would overspill. So, but that's it. I don't know who that guy is. But anyway, so this is the truck. This is how they got the fuel to the tanks. Okay. So then we can go to the next area, I think, which is a dispenser, which is, this is what you call a pre-visible. No gas is being shown, so you really don't have any idea much about it. But again, it's on the curb, and this skirt, and this would be a typical island. You'd have water, gasoline, kerosene, and a light. And this would be at nighttime, and the skirt would be up. You would pull the skirt down during the day, and it would be like this. And then in here, you would have a pump that you could crank it up. It would come out here and then flow into the car. Also in here, then they started to come out and say, well, we're going to try to get pretty accurate for you. But people, it only goes, this is a 5-gallon pump. There's a gear in here that you can turn for 1, turn it more for 2, 3, 4, and 5. So the most you could dispense at any one time is 5 gallons on this pump. Obviously, if you want 10, you could do it twice, right? But then at the end of the night, you would put it back up, and you lock it up, and that'd be the safety of it. This is the kerosene pump, and this has the, let's see if I can do this without breaking it. But there are stops. Now, kerosene, everybody had kerosene lights, right? I mean, that was primarily what they were burning. No electricity again. This is all before electricity. These are stops that you just pull over to here. And when you crank this pump back here, you bring this stop right here up, and it will stop right here. And this one has to be a quart. This is a pint, quart, gallon. I mean, and that's what they were dispensing, just pretty small. You'd come up with your own can to this pump right here on the island and get a pint or a quart. And if you wanted the other one. And these were actually, you could take this little peg off, screw these up and down. A person from the state would come in and measure the amount that you were discharging, so that it was a waste to measure already back at that time. But just think, pint, quart, have a pump. That's all you're gonna, you know. And what are you gonna dispense at the end of the day? 3 gallons. But this is pre-visible. This is pre-visible, and this is probably one of the first pumps that they ever had, and this is model number 1. And all it is just a well pump. That's all it is.
Now, David, what year approximately would that?
This would be like 1904, maybe 5. This one would be older than this one here, but all you do is put your can on here and you would pump it just like a well. That was the first pump, model 1. Pretty unusual.
We use that kind of pump to pump the oil out.
Pardon?
We use that style pump to pump the oil out.
Out of what?
Out of a 55-gallon drum.
Yeah, they're similar.
Similar.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
They did make that type of pump that you would put into a barrel and transfer it.
It was still around when I was working at the gas.
Well, those are old things, so.
Yeah.
See there?
Yeah.
All right.
I know I'm a little old.
Right. Also on the top of their truck, which I didn't really show you, but gasoline was really new at this time, and this was on the top of their truck.
Do you want me to go back?
Yeah, will you just real quick show the truck? Up on the top, can you see it up on the top? This is the sign that's up there. It's purple and it's powerful. I mean, gasoline is new. People didn't, you know. The story was that my grandfather went around the block real close to here too fast in his car, and what he said is whoa. To his car. Yeah. I don't think the car listened. But this was a sign telling people that was a gas truck and gasoline, but this is the original sign that would be up on top of that truck. So, Mary, let's go to, I think that's kerosene and water. They would have water there because, you know, they didn't know if the cars would heat up or whatever. But that's pretty much of a typical pump. You had a water can waiting for you there, kerosene. That was a little gas can. This is the gas can that's in there, and that was a Sinclair pump, and it had Sinclair right on the cans, like your can was the older can. But can you imagine doing something like this on a can today? You get a plastic can, right? But they spent time. So. Then the next one I have a light. I just want to show you that this light that is behind this island is a cast iron base and a light wood column. So if you go to the next one, right here, this is all wood. And here are the steps, one on this side and that side and this side. Could you imagine the safety, OSHA, what they'd say if you had to go up there today to change that light? This light is still in operation in Detroit. If you get off at the exit for Woodward, and right to your left, there are about 3 of these right in a row, still operating. Wood pole. I don't think the guys go up there on those steps. I think they have a truck or whatever, but they're still operating. But it's kind of a unique light.
I bought 2 of those lights from university.
What's that?
Put them at the farm. I had 2 lights like that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I put up at the farm. It became the driveway. And the wooden posts are the same size as the wooden water lines that they used in Detroit.
We just put a hole in it.
Yeah, just a pole, tapered on one end and glued on the other.
Yeah.
Dave, would Woodward been paved at this time?
I would say probably with bricks.
Brick.
Yeah, I don't think it would have been pavement. And certainly the roads in Richmond weren't paved. Yeah.
But wood, you know, that stretch of Woodland was the first paved road in the country.
Yes,
Right.
yes,
Not a person.
yep. So,
I have a question, how many times have you changed that light bulb?
you know what? My knees shook when I stood that up. I have not changed that light bulb. I think I used your scissor lift, Tom, to get up there.
That's why I asked.
You'll not see me. So, no, that's more for decoration.
I had to build a scaffolding to tow that cast iron thing up so I could put it on the wooden post.
Yeah.
And the base of that is cast iron also.
Right, and that post actually sets down in that cast iron, and so it drops in about this far, so when you get it up there and let go, you know, it drops. I mean, you do it easy, but I had a crane sign truck lift it up and drop it in, so.
I can remember putting that in there. That was not easy.
I did not have that experience, and I'm really glad I didn't.
Take my word for it, I'm glad. You did have.
You got it, I got your word. Okay. So now we're going to go into the visible, okay? The other ones were pre-visible. You can't see any gas, you can't see anything else other than, you know, they're telling you it's purple and it's powerful. But, so they decided to come out with the visible. And this is what a typical island would look like, with a couple visible pumps. The different colors would accentuate between whether it was a regular or premium, if they had it at that time. It could denote that one pump is newer than the other too. And then they would have a loopster, which is this small one with the pump in it. And that loopster would allow the attendant to pump gas or pump oil into these bottles and then keep it right on the island. And the bottles had caps in case it would be raining or something. But they'd fill these bottles up for a quart, and then when the truck would or car would come in and they needed oil, they would just sell them a quart of oil here. But they were put out on the island. If at the end of the day these weren't sold, they'd take the cap off, pour it right back in the top. There's a screen, and then you know, early on they probably left them out on the island, but later on they were on wheels, and then they would wheel those back into the garage itself. So, but that's the beginning of the visible. This is a skeleton of one of that pump, similar to that right there. This is the crank to crank the. This one has a fill pipe. This is a little newer from the standpoint that they started to say, okay, if you wanted 4 gallons or you wanted 6 gallons or 8 gallons, they would take a fill pipe and move the fill pipe up to where it was 6 gallons. So that when you then would, and this is the pump, and the pump is there, you'd pump this by hand, and you would pump the fuel up into the glass. And if that fill pipe went up to 6 gallons, then if you pumped it too far, it would just spill over and come right back down into the tank. But it was a little more accurate doing it that way. These pumps right here strictly had a fill pipe up to 10 gallons. So in the morning, the tank would go out and go, and if you put 10 gallons in it, when the car would come, if they wanted 6, they would draw down 6 gallons, there'd be 4 left. So he'd be out there and he would get and put 10 up or whatever.
I know you're going to be asked at some point, how much was the gasoline and the fuel at that point per gallon? I mean, you're talking like a nickel or a dime or something?
I think at this time it was probably like a nickel. I know I've seen porcelain signs with the price. Can you imagine making a price out of porcelain? I mean, when it changes 3 times a day now. But they would make it out of porcelain, and they would have it out. But we'll get into some of the pumps, but this was very typical that would be on the pump. And this would tell you what the price is for 1 gallon, and it would help the attendant to, if you got 12 or whatever it is. This is including tax. A lot of times they didn't even have tax early on, so it would just be the price or whatever it was. But I would say at this particular time, this is probably around 1910, where these were early on in before 10. Those came in around 11. I mean, I remember those in the 50s. They would be out at a remote area, people would be using them. But it was pretty remote. So, but that's typical what would be on a pump, and I'll show you later on where one has this type of marker on it.
That's unusual to be 6/10, because now it's 9/10.
Yeah, they learned that it didn't make any difference. So let's get as much as we can from it. Yeah, that's exactly right. So, okay, let's go to the next one. This is just another type of pump. This is a 10 gallons, and what it has the stone guard on it. And this maybe would be used along a highway where cars maybe would be zooming by at 30 miles an hour in their car, kicking up stones and things of that sort. So they would put a stone guard on it. Pretty hard to see the markers, and this is a typical marker that is in there, and there would be 3 of them on the top up there, so you could see it. But that stone guard really blocks a lot of visibility for the person to see it.
And the guard uses stone guards?
That's for stone, for somebody would kick up a stone driving by.
Okay.
And also then they started to make this for lights. They started to put lights in these when electricity came out, and they have lights here. Now, right now this is being used by a bird. See the nest right there, dirty bird. But they started to bring lights into them later on with the visibles. So, okay, that is a 10 gallon. Actually, in this one here, the hand pump, where this one is on the outside of the pump, they started to recess them so they could close it up, secure it a little bit more at nighttime. So that they just put a lock on the outside and wouldn't have to secure it. So, and I will go to, let me see the next one here. This is what they call the May West because of the shape. It's actually a fry pump. This is a 5 gallon pump, where the one before was a 10 gallon. And you can see the gallon markers here, like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 is up here. There, you open up this door, and there's a handle in here that you take the fill pipe and move it up, and it will move it to whatever gallon you would like. And then with the hand pump here, you'd pump the fuel up, and when you got more than what the 4 gallons was, let's say, it would spill over and come back down into the tank. And then when the person came, you could have, he could select 4 gallons or whatever. Now, on this pump, you can see right here, is what they had as it's called the banana nozzle. This is the nozzle that is on that pump right here. No trigger. You open up the valve and the fuel just flows out. Now here's the valve. And this is called a weighted valve. You have to push this up to open it. So when this falls down like that, it's going to close the valve and fuel will not go out of it. Early pumps, they used weights all over the place so wind wouldn't affect it, but you had to hold this open. I don't know if you can see that open. You'd sit there and open it and let the 4 gallons come out of that tank through this banana nozzle. So you weren't triggering it at all. You made a decision you wanted 4. You got to hope it took 4. Yeah, go back, that's spilling, right? Okay, so it's yellow on the ground, 5 cents, right? But that is a weighted valve, and that, you see that valve is right on the edge over here. That's the weighted valve where it comes out of here. So this is the nozzle, there's the weighted valve up here, there's the nozzle. Take that over, put it in your tank, push that up, and it will dispense. Now, later on when they came, they needed electricity to light this thing. They ran electricity out through these bars here, tubing, to get it away from the gasoline. You know, obviously gasoline and electricity doesn't mix, so.
Sparks.
Pardon?
Did you have any trouble with sparking?
The ones that we had trouble with, we can't find them. No, that's why they did that. I mean, for safety, is to eliminate any danger. So now what I'm going to show you is how that actually works. This is this globe right here will set up on top of this. This is that pump, not the May West, but a pump. You've got the return, you got the pump. That glass is going to sit up on top. So that's going to be up on top like that, sit up on top. And then you're going to have your measuring gallons. There are 3 slots up there that these are going to sit in. And so that is going to sit, and you're going to see, let me do this.
Do you need an assistant?
This is also a little colored to help protect the gasoline from the sun rays. Now, it was advantageous to put the gas into the sun because you'd fill it to here, and at the end of the day with the sun, it might be up to here. So that you'd want to sell your gas while the sun was out, right? But anyway, so you'd have these, and you all see the indicators in here. Then there were fill pipes. Christine, have you just? What it would be? This would be like the overflow at 10 gallons. They would set this up for 10 gallons. This would be for if you were going to raise or lower it, and this one would be a vent. All these would be inside of this glass. Okay. So then after you have those items in here,
Does this go in there too?
pardon?
Does this pretty one go in there?
No, that goes on the outside. Then we have this will go on top of that glass. And here's cork. Now there's cork up on the top of that to help seal it from leaks. And then you have this glass with wire in it, so if it broke or anything, you still have safety. But you want to seal this thing as much as possible. So this is going to go in here. No, I really don't want to break this. It's actually more than your wedding ring, wasn't it?
Wait.
see, look, Christine, remember with those rods. You take this rod, and there's like 10 of them that go around, and they would go down through here, like this, and it would come down into one of these holes, right up in here. So that you would tighten them up, and you can see that that whole top now is going to be secure.
Does this have a name, like, May West or?
This one?
Yeah.
This one is a Wayne. There were like probably 8 to 10 companies making pumps. There was a Tokine and a May West and a
But none of them had interesting names like the May West. That was.
no, that was the figure. That's all that's a fried gas on a May West, but it's a fried pump. So then this is the valve that would go up on top of your pump right here. Okay? So now you can see the cover on that pump up there. So now we kind of just completed the shell with all the markers, indicators. You've seen this here. All this has is a skirt on it. That one has the black skirt on it. This one doesn't, so you can see what the innards are. And that's all. So then, on top of here, pretty simple. I mean, so far we're not using any electricity. Okay, we don't have the piece coming around. This then would sit up in here. And there's little drain slots here. That would allow any water that would hit here to drain out. But this pretty much completes your visible pump. So, like I said, they seal it from the weather, and they secure it, put a top on it, put the brand, whatever the brand would be, and there you go. Everything is seen at this time. Before, it was pre-visible. This is your visible. This is the second generation of gas pumps. That weight will keep it right on.
What year did this gas pump start coming out?
Pardon?
What year?
This pump here?
Yeah.
Again, this would probably be in the 11, 12, 13.
Okay.
I would say somewhere, then up into the 20s, they would use this particular pump. I think the next pump we're going to go to, the next generation, is a, you know what, I'm going to pass this around because I want you to feel the weight of that. Yes?
Who supplied the gas and where were the refineries?
Yeah.
They're probably in your bigger areas. I don't know exactly where the refineries were, but I still think they were probably near Detroit, your larger metropolitan areas at the time. I know there are a lot of bulk plants, like Mr. Penzine had one down on the end of Forest, down here on Division. McMartin's had a tank plant over here. Co-ops had one down there. There were a lot of tank farms, but the actual refineries, I think there was one in Elma. I don't know when they started, but that I can't tell you exactly where they were, but I know they were making moonshine in the backyard. I don't think they did.
The oil at that time, most of it did not come from Pennsylvania, isn't that where?
You know what, I couldn't tell you.
And Ontario.
Again, here's a weight. This is a fill pipe on a, it would be on like this pump. And again, it's got a weight on it. Everything had a weight on it, so it would help seal it from the weather. Almost everything they did at the early stages had weights on it. So, okay.
Hey, what did they do about the theft?
That,
Yeah, did they have a lock or something when
I know
the
there
store
were,
closed? Or
Smith and Wesson was always there.
might spark something, no?
You know what, there's probably a percentage. There weren't very many stations, so there weren't very many thieves.
I would assume they locked the handle or something.
Well, all these have locks. This one is locked right now.
Oh, I see. Oh, I see.
This is locked right here, so you can't move. They locked everything up. At the end of the day, it didn't matter whether it was a looster or whatever it was, everything was locked up. But how you control the thieves, you know, I don't, that one I can't tell you. So, somehow this guy got pages turned upside down. What's the next one there, 15?
It's a picture that you
Oh,
got.
okay. Now we're going to go to the clock face. Okay, first of all, we tried the pre-visible. Then we went to the visible, and now we're going to go to the clock face. Obviously, the clock up there looks like the clock, right? Now these two shady characters worked on a station right up here on the corner across from the town clock. If you look real close here, you see the gleam in this guy's eye. That was 5 years before I came around. That's my dad. Up by the corner, up here by the clock.
And the gas station, at that time, the name of the gas station was?
I think they were selling Fleetwood, and that was, I believe that was Melvin Weeks, who was my dad's uncle, and that's who my father bought his station from, is Melvin Weeks. And there was an article in the paper where, when my father bought him out, Uncle Melvin said, I hope he keeps the same customers that were loyal to him, and da-da-da-da. But what I want to show you here is this dude is already plus selling. You know, you go into a store and they're going to say 2 bottles of water for $2 or $3, whatever it is. That gas probably was 14 cents a gallon. 7 times 14 is 98. He's selling it for 3 cents less if you buy 7 gallons.
Oh, 7
He's the one
gallons
that's
for-
quite me about it. Probably if you had that picture, you'd probably destroy it. But anyway, pardon?
You know that, Melvin? Who else?
Who's the other man?
No, I have no idea.
You don't know who that is?
I was trying to think who's old enough that would know that Phil, and Dale, you came to mind.
I knew the guys, right?
Yeah, right. I don't know. I don't think that's Dutch. I know there are a lot of people that work for my father, but I don't have any idea who that other gentleman is. Running with a pretty loose character, that's all I can tell. But that's the beginning of the clock face pumps. I think maybe we go to the next one. But again, that was the beginning of recording the gallons that you're buying. On the pre-visible, you kind of just guessed your way along. Now it's got a motor in it, and it's going to tell you how many gallons. It hasn't told you the price, other than what he advertised on the front of that dispenser. But they're telling you the gallons. And these pumps right here, very typical, is if you can see, this is the back of this pump. Now there's only one motor in this pump, and that shaft goes all the way through. So they were starting to move these pumps out onto curbs, or off of curbs onto islands, so you could come to that pump either direction.
Either side, yeah.
If you notice this, on here, the numbers go counterclockwise. Over here, they go clockwise. So it's the same pump, it's the same nozzle, it's the same Visaglass, but you can get it from either side. And the only way they, at that time, they didn't have the technology to reverse this clock, the gallons. And that's, so this is what those faces look like. Here's one going backwards, which would be the back of the pump, and this would be on the front. Same pump, they'd be like this, depending on which side of the pump you got out. Very, pretty simple, but and this one had lights on it, you can see, and there's that price indicator up there. There was a lot of brass on that one. It could have been for promotion. Usually you didn't see pumps with that much brass.
I thought the brass didn't spark.
Pardon?
I thought brass didn't spark.
I give up.
In the barns with the horses, they always had brass, so it sparked because of the
Oh,
hay.
this variable? Could be. I really couldn't tell you. I'm going to show you one other nozzle that they would put on a pump that maybe was outside. Is that then they were worried about water getting into them. Pretty simple, hey? You just put a cap on it.
It's a good idea.
But that was very typical. Also, at the end of the day, then you take this, put it into this fill pipe. Are we about done, Christine?
No.
You'd put it in there. This would be a little
Go all
larger.
night, David.
Okay, but you'd put it in there and then take the fuel from the pump on the visible. Not on this type of pump right here. And this one had a motor. This is the beginning of the motors in pumps, the clock face. If you go to the next one, right, you'll see it's just another type of pump. This one has to be standard. Again, the dial goes one direction, the other one goes the opposite direction. I would like to point out that this is called a sight glass. Okay? How did people know that when you started to dispense that they're really getting gas? So that spinner, there's a spinner in there that would turn to tell you that fuel was actually flowing through the glass. Okay? So this is a typical sight glass, what they call the Visaglass, and that would spin as the fuel would go through. And this was what they started on the clock faces to tell the people that you're actually getting some fuel. You're not just a dial going around and nothing flowing through it. But this is very typical of that order.
It's interesting that little vein inside there is in the shape of a dollar.
Actually, that was going to be, if you flip to the next slide, that S is for Charbier. It was the brand of the pump. Different companies would do it different, but that S you can see is right up there. This is on this side here. What's rare about this pump is a dual. So it has a face on this side that will dispense out of this one. There's a face on the opposite side which will dispense out of that hose. So this was the beginning where a clock face could fuel 2 cars at one time. Let's get that production rolling, right? Get to sell as much as you can. But that is a sight glass primarily to let the people know that they're getting fuel. And that's a White Eagle gasoline, primarily in the Midwest. And there's also a sign on this one telling you that don't pull up, you're not going to just let it drip into your car. There's a motor, and so they put motor right on there to tell you that this pump has a motor.
That's quite a decoration, just right on top, right? It's just a decorated eagle?
This is the White Eagle.
The white eagle?
This is the advertisement of the White. That's a brand of gas. White Eagle is a brand of gas.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and the faces on these are very, very ornate. They're brass with lights. It's very pretty pumps. Then after this is the end of the clock faces, we're going to go to the next generation that has a meter. And this, another pretty pump that I think. But this is now showing you the price per gallon. This is showing your gallons, and it's going to show you what your cost is.
Of your.
And that's pardon?
Beautiful colors on it.
Well, that's different.
It's purple.
Yeah. This pump is valued at very little. If it was green and white, it would probably be a lot higher. Maize and blue. Is it maize or? I don't know where it is. You can give me that one. Yeah, so they tried to doll these up and make them attractive, but also that still was telling the customer that the fuel is still flowing through on this pump. See that Visaglass up on top? There it is right there. It's not on the side, but it's still telling the customer they're still not leaving the people. They want to make sure that they know they're getting the fuel. And that's what that other Visaglass was for. This is for. That is going to spin around as the fuel goes through. If these dials are turning and that's not going, it's probably that shyster in that picture. But this is really the last of the generations. And the pumps are still in these. You can call them pumps because they're true pumps. When you pull into a station today, what you're filling up with are dispensers. There's no pump in them. They're just a carcass. The pump is in the tank. And that pump can fuel 8 to 10 dispensers at one time. You notice that if you go in, if you're dispensing fuel, and you can feel somebody else, when they turn their pump on, that it draws a little charge down, and it draws your dispenser down a little bit. But I think this is the last of the real beauties. You take the motor pumps, you take the clock faces, which I think are a beautiful pump, the visibles, which are really interesting in how they're put together, pre-visibles, this thing here is pretty dull. The other pre-visible doesn't have a lot of appeal, I don't think. But that's basically the walkthrough of those 4 generations.
You weren't going to buy $10 worth of gas on there either.
On here? Is that what it is, right?
There's only 3 spots on the top of sale, versus the sale, there's only 3.
3 digits.
Oh, yeah, that's right. $9.99. They weren't dispensing a whole lot of fuel. No.
Over that.
What year was that?
And this would be probably in the 30s, early 30s. So they went pretty fast from the pre-visible to these in a very short period of time. And probably you'd go to a station and could see any or all of them at a station at one time. As they would upgrade, they would leave one, and maybe didn't have the money change all of them. They would just change a few of them. But
At a time.
and to think of that White Eagle globe, that globe is like a $2,000 globe, and I've heard stories where at the end of the year they would take truckloads of those out to the dump and just dispose of them.
Well, that's why they're worth $2.
So why wasn't my dump? But there were those things were cheap, dime a dozen. So, but I'd say all of this got me going into the gas station. My uncle built this station for me back in, I would say in 1945. I got it as a Christmas present. My mother's brother built it for me, Uncle Barty. And so that started me out. And it was pretty much true to the station, the service doors, the entry door, and the bathroom door was over around the side, which is the majority of those stations when they were built. That's where you'd have to go outside to go around. But anyway, that was my first piece of gas station memorabilia. The rest is Geneva, right? It's that cross between junk and antiques.
Could you show us these glass bottles?
Pardon?
Could you show us these glass bottles?
Yeah, I think I did. They were on the islands, and they were actually used up in the 40s and 50s. I put oil in them when we weren't getting oil in the cans, metal cans, and then they went to cardboard. But we'd pump oil. I think Al, you said you'd pump an oil out of a barrel, pump them into these.
Fill them up.
Yeah, but that's how they would carry them out to the island, and that night they would just carry them back. I should tell you that I worked at this station where my father had it, and then my brother went into business. But when I was a junior in high school, I worked there one summer, and I would wash cars, change tires, full service on the island. I would grease and change oil on the vehicle. I would change mufflers. I would do the whole 9 yards, whatever you did to a car. And we closed at 8 o'clock. I stayed open till 10 o'clock one night because I wanted to break $100 for the till. For 10 hours, just to make $100 on the till. That's not what we made profit-wise, but I wanted to register, see if that would go to $100 like those would go, whatever they would.
Put air in your tires too.
Yeah, you know what? I have a little air machine here. I just want to show you my quick move there. This is what they call the air balance. And I don't know, yeah, they're not too very, not real. Anyway, you'd take the hose off of here and it would start dinging. And what you would do is, if you had your bicycle, if you wanted to put 7 pounds of air in your tire, you'd set it at 7. Or, if you had a truck tire or whatever, you'd adjust the amount of pressure you wanted. You took the hose off here to start dinging. And when it got to equalized balance, that would stop. And this was used, this probably came out in the 40s and used up into the 60s. I mean, I remember those.
Did you patch tires too?
Pardon?
Did you patch tires?
We patched tires, I ruined tires. I did everything you could to do to a tire. If I thought I could get $100 again, I'd ruin a tire so you'd have to buy another one. But, yeah, we did, at that time you did everything. Full service, truly was for full service. And that also meant that you'd be under the hood, check the oils for the car. And I do know this, that this car pulled up with a bunch of girls in it. I was in there checking the oil, and they slammed on the horn. My head went up, hit the hood, and I just told them how nice the girls they were.
Is it one
Yeah,
you never
that-
hears you say?
I don't believe that.
How many quarts of oil did the car take then?
I would think that 4, but you don't want to do is put too much oil into them because then they really fog up.
Yeah.
Eddie's, I was putting some oil into my lawnmower. First of all, I'm not a mechanic,
Yeah.
and my eyesight's not very good along with my hearing, but I was putting oil into my lawnmower, and I couldn't see if I was registering. So I kept dumping and dumping and dumping. I started the machine up, and all of a sudden this cloud of smoke came up. And then I ran it for a little bit, and I could hear voices on the other side of the cloud. I knew somebody was over there, and it was Eddie, and he said, I think you might have too much oil in there. Shut it down, didn't hurt it, but he drained it out for me. I really wanted him to do it. I could have done it. That's what good friends are for. Yes, sir.
Dave, whoever give the gas stations permission to sell air? You gotta pay for
Probably
air.
some entrepreneur that.
Did you ever think you'd ever see where you have to pay to buy air?
Yeah.
How about buy what?
Yeah.
I'm sure if I would grab my father and pull him up and say, hey, Dad, we are now selling water and air. He'd say, why didn't we do that 30 years ago? Yeah, you know what? That's exactly right.
That's because you got to buy it.
Yeah. But you could always go up to Memphis at the Shell station and get us for a much better price.
That was a gold one.
There he is, right there.
That was a gold one.
You know, Dave, when we would put oil in the car, you know, they'd say, come on, check your oil. You'd say you needed a quart of oil. We'd put a quart of oil in. Well, when you were done with that can, when it wouldn't, you know, it only drain out so far, take it over to the 55-gallon drum with the pump into it and turn them upside down and let that oil drain out. We would sell that oil for, you know, maybe 10 cents cheaper
Or maybe not.
Yeah.
But there were also those drains on the islands. I know we had those. You'd push that nozzle into the can, you'd pour it into the car, and you'd take that and put it into that drain can. And I know we had those right on the islands. And then you'd transfer that oil.
It was a cheaper oil. You never knew what you were getting, you know, 10W40 or 10W30 or whatever.
Well, you'd always look to see if the vehicle was leaking a lot of oil. You'd want a heavier oil, so you'd put a bunch of things in it so that it wouldn't drain as much, right? Yeah, you know, that whole gas station business really grew pretty fast. And it went from the non-visible or pre-visible up to the metered. And then now after this, I mean, they've got...
Television cameras are announced.
Pardon?
TV cameras on gas pumps.
Yeah, I guess they do. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
When I was working in the shop, we talked about draining oil cans. We used to do that because back then they had oil bath air cleaners. So you'd wash out your air cleaner and you'd use these dripping drains to put back in there instead of having to open a fresh quart of oil.
See, there you go, right there. Using all the materials.
You use newspapers to dry the windshield after you washed them.
Yeah.
That's why Darryl would go to the Bahamas every year. And I could only get the mutton bill.
That's why he has an attic full of treasures.
Didn't throw anything up.
No. And we shouldn't. You know, we should be more consistent that way today with everything. You know, the bottles and whole 9 yards. So I really don't have a whole lot more. If you guys want more questions, you're welcome to come up and take a look at this stuff. If you didn't get a slip,
you know, get a coffee, get a slice of pizza.
Of all of what you showed us there, how many of them do you own today? It said in the paper 30 of them?
No,
Everything.
on a good day, it's probably 17.
He owns everything that he's got here in the
Oh,
picture.
everything you showed.
Yeah, everything I showed here, and, you know, they're just more of the same. I think I have 5 o'clock ones, I have 5 visible, I have meters. But I like the different colors of them, because I never know what color dress Susan's going to wear. So I like to take it by one of the pumps that's going to compliment her. Only thinking of her.
She's May West.
No, she makes it way May West, you know.
I
I try not to get into those areas.
There's a question back here, David.
Frank?
I think us folks should give a congratulation hand to Dave and Sue Foster. They're celebrating their 50th anniversary this week.
You really need to congratulate.
It was in the paper, Susan.
Are you taking her to White Castle?
I already did. You know, talking about that, the night we got married, our reception was at the church, okay? So we had these little sandwiches with the crust cut off. Can you imagine a Foster, you know, trying to fill up on those little things? So a little later, I was hungry, so we went to a restaurant, and we went in, and they just closed the kitchen. And I think the lady knew, because again, that gleam that was in my dad's eye was probably the gleam in my eye. But, so she said, we'll open it up and make you a hamburger if you'd like. So that was our dinner on our wedding night. So I've tried to keep the tradition going. I just have one more story. The one island that I had in the backyard with the white star with the mobile sign, and I'm not going to say it was Susan's best friend, but I think it was one of her friends, said that she couldn't remember a gas station being there. That's not my backyard. But I just want to show you that there's a white star, and that's when Mobil bought out White Star. There's a little number down on the bottom that says 1934. It's just like when BP was bought out by, or they bought out Amoco, Amoco bought out Standard. They always put the other brand on there for a short period of time, so people realize that that's what that brand is. This is a very unusual sign because it has the white star on it. Shortly after that, then they were all just mobile signs. But that does indicate that they just bought out White Star.
Would you explain to them how you put that sign up there?
Yeah. Tom did.
I took my man lift over there, and Dave and I put it up there, and that man lift had a platform about 4 foot by 8 foot, let's say. And David only worked with one hand off the man lift. He never let go of the rail.
White knuckles.
No, I will have to interject something. If Mary Ellen goes back to the picture of the clock faces, David is very meticulous when he restores. And the one, it's the one that's
I think it's time to go.
Which right?
This one?
Yes,
10 or
I
11?
think it's that one right there. It's that clock
Oh.
face, yeah.
No, it's the shell stick.
It's the shell one?
The shell.
Anyway, it sounds so easy to say you restore these, but try to find the pieces and parts. So he was trying to find a face. He did not have a face for that.
Right here.
So we ended up using a pie tin that we got out of a cooking catalog. It's an oversized pie tin is where that face actually came from when he did it, because they weren't any available. So he spends a lot of time actually restoring. They didn't come like this when he got them, believe me. most of it looked this and worse before
This
he
was
started
the
working.
pipe pin right here, shaped, you can see it.
Did you
The
get a
first one I
pie
got-
on it originally?
No, we did not make it a pie first. He went right to the
The first one I got was out of the kitchen, and then I realized I shouldn't have done that. So we went and bought one, but then I mounted the face in there, and I had to get the right diameter and everything. And that was what was there originally, but it wasn't my
Pie tin.
Where did you find all these pumps at?
Well, Susan found a lot of them for me. No, you know what? There are pickers out there, just like you see on TV.
Yeah.
All you need to do is have a connection, maybe 2 or 3, and they're looking out for you. They will call you. It just depends on which you want. But they're out there. You don't find too many of them in the backyards anymore, the farms. People primarily have picked those. There are swap meets. Every year there's a swap meet in Howell that you could go to, and you probably could go there and see maybe 50 of these pumps. So, yeah, and this is my garage that they're in. You can see a little bit of it. It's got a tile floor. I thought that if I ever got in trouble, I better have a nice place to go to. So it's got floor heat in it, so there's not rust. I have, here's a picture of my dad with an airplane. This is really truly my Jenny things that I had in boxes that I just put on the wall that, I can go out there and sit and look and take the dog out with me and we're both happy. But that's pretty much it. It's been fun, but it's not a whole lot of fun getting old because I really haven't bought a lot of things lately because I think I finally realized maybe I didn't grow up because I told Susan my goal is to never grow up. But I really don't need anything else, So I'm not buying. I don't go out and buy. I've got a garage full. Kids can get rid of it when I'm done. I do have 4 cars in there, different colors for Susan. And we have 4 kids, so whatever I do, I have to do in 4s. So then what happened is I bought a 5th car, and I said, good deal. I had to go to 8, right? So she said that's enough. Right, Saturday night's coming up.
Did everybody see this? That's got as far as name here. This heavy thing.
Yeah, that's pretty heavy, isn't it?
Yes, it is. I just want to make sure she showed you that.
Bring it back.
David, thank you so much for one of the best programs we've had.
Well, you think
Your
Christine-
enthusiasm is admirable, really, and we appreciate it very much. So everybody's welcome to stick around and talk to Dave if you'd like to, or talk with each other. And I will have the donation by the door. So, thank